Okay, I'm not talking over you. Tomorrow we are quizzing. We're going to do degrees to radians, radians to degrees, and then we're going to do coterminal angles. And so the coterminal angles are plus or minus 360 or plus or minus 2 pi. On the pink paper, yes. I have to give a couple quick notes before we start. It doesn't matter. So, what I want to review is this. Everybody can do the coterminal angles, but where you run into a problem is this. If I need a coterminal angle of pi over 6, and I need to add 2 pi, so I have to have a common denominator with 2 pi and something over 6. If I multiplied the 1 times 6, I have to multiply the 2 by 6, and that gives me 12 pi over 6. And if I add 12 pi over 6, for the love of Pete, 1 pi plus 12 pi is... Some of you, that addition fact was hard, apparently, on the homework. So, if I subtract... This is like taking 1 pi minus 12 pi, which gives me, it's negative 11 pi. And if you don't put the negative, y'all, it's wrong. I got to have a positive and a negative. And the reason I have to have a negative is because the positive angle, which way does it rotate? It goes this way, but the negative goes this way. And if you don't have the positive and negative, I don't know if it's right, bless you, if it's right or wrong. Okay. Now, so remember how we always talk about geometry is a stupid subject, and we hate it, right? We just wish it was gone. So I told you probably the only thing you remember from geometry was the SOHCAHTOA. Yeah, we'll go over that too. Don't worry, Marvin. All right, but what we are going to do, though, is we're going to talk about some special triangles. And before I do the fun for today, I'm going to go over 2 special triangles. I want to do a 45-45-90 and a 30-60-90. So I have to give some notes before we start so you know where all these values are coming from. So I'm going to start with the 45-45-90. So what I do know, even me, the little I know about geometry, is if I have angles that are the same, what do I know about the sides? They're the same, correct? So on this 45-45-90, if I made this side 1, what's this side going to be? 1. Now, I need the hypotenuse. Right, we just used that Pythagorean theorem. So if this is x squared, I get 1 squared plus 1 squared equals x squared. So 1 plus 1 gives me 2 is x squared. And I find this by taking the square root, which makes the hypotenuse the square root of 2. I have to get a little fancier to get a 30-60-90. So I'm going to draw an equilateral triangle. That doesn't look very equilateral, but just play along. So the equilateral triangle means all the sides are equal. And if all the sides are equal, what's true about all the angles? They're all equal. So let's just label this one. How much would this be? 60. So now what I want to do is I'm going to drop a base right down the middle. So how much would the top base be now? I mean the top angle. This is 30. And this is a right angle. I'm going to make the hypotenuse 2. Bless you. I did. I just picked 2. And you like 2, so we're going with 2. Now, if I drop this down, I cut this in half, so how much is this side right here? 1. But I need the height now. And again, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to get x squared plus 1 squared equals 2 squared. So my 2 squared is 4. So I have x squared plus 1 equals 4. And when I subtract the 1, I get x squared is 3. So my x this time is the square root of 3, right here. So the cool thing, what we've been talking about with that little circle that you all love so much, and you're going to grow to, it's going to be your favorite thing in the whole world. The cool thing about this circle is called the unit circle. And the reason it's called the unit circle is the radius is always 1. The radius is always 1. So, for these triangles to work, I need my hypotenuses to be 1. Okay? So if I look at this triangle right here, and I want this hypotenuse to be 1. Right now it's the square root of 2. So what would I have to do to make it 1? Just shrug our shoulders and move on? No. Just change it to 1? The thingamabob. That's exactly what I'm going to do, Angie. Not over pi. What do I have to divide this by to make it 1? I have to divide it by the square root of 2, right? And what did I say yesterday about the square root in the denominator? Can we have a square root in the denominator? No. So you have to rationalize the denominator. So when I divide by the square root of 2, this becomes 1. So I have 1 over the square root of 2. And I know I can't have a square root of 2 on bottom, so I'm going to rationalize it, which means I have to multiply the bottom by the square root of 2 and the top. And when I do that, I get new sides of the square root of 2 over 2 and the square root of 2 over 2. And now I have sides that are all going to work on my cute little brand new unit circle, which I'm so excited about. So if I look at the 30, 60, 90 triangle, it's going to be the same idea. I want my hypotenuse to be 1. So what do I divide by this time? 2. So if I divide all the sides by 2, I get 1, 1/2, and the square root of 3 over 2. So does everybody see these? Okay. So, listen, there's way more of you than me. And we're going to start cutting. And I'm going to go crazy if you don't listen to my directions. So, is everybody partnered? Okay. So, oh, Marvin, come up here, honey. Move it. I know, he's sad. Get up here, Marvin. So, I'm handing out triangles. So there's 2 of you. I'm going to give each of you a triangle, but listen, they're the same, and you need to change with your partner. You need to end up with 1 of each. Does this make sense? Also, when you're cutting the triangles, you have to cut out all the edges, like all of it. All we want left is the triangle when you're done. Okay? Okay, here we go. So, here we go. You guys, I'm going to talk. If you're still talking, you're not going to hear me. Stop. All right. So, first of all, make sure your circle is set the correct way. So you need the 0, 0 on this side. Yes. So does everybody have everybody has the unit circle set? Okay. So next, okay, thanks. Oh, she's not here. Okay, I'm going to label the quadrantals. So to start with, we know that the unit circle has a radius of 1. So I'm just going to do the quadrantals. So if I start right here, in the x direction, this is 1, but in the y direction, it is 0. So if we go to 90 degrees now, go up to 90. How much in the x direction is it? 0. And in the y direction? 1. If I go to 180 or pi, -1 and 0, and then 0 and -1. So what I want us to do first is I want to label the quadrants. And the quadrants I want to label with signs. So I know the x is positive in the x, and it's positive in the y. In the second quadrant, it's negative in the x and positive in the y. In the third, it's negative in the x and negative in the y. And in the fourth, it's positive in the x and negative in the y. Okay. Don't start talking. Don't. But listen to me. You have 2 green triangles. One of them is going to lay just like this on this side. And this is the one I want to start with. The other green one lies this way. Make sure you have one on each side. I'll give you back scissors in a minute. Jasmine, did you get it? Yeah. Okay. Shh. Now listen. So, first of all, if I look at this, and I look right here, this is labeled, and it's 30 degrees, and we said in radians this is pi over 6, because it's pi over 2, 3, 4, and then 6. So this is pi over 6. So look at your triangle. What is the side on that triangle? What is the x value that we just found? So this is the x-axis. What's the... So we're going to put the square root of 3 over 2. And what's the y value? Look at the triangle. The y value is this. It's a half. So does everybody see where those two came from? Now listen. On this side, across, this is the reference angle that's 30 still, right? But what's true on this side about our x? X is negative. So what's the x value? Negative 3 over 2. And the y? It's a positive 1/2. Well, that's what the side is, right? Look at yours. You don't have to look at mine. You have one in front of you. Okay. So, here's the next thing we're going to do. I'm going to hand you some tape. All right? When you get your tape, listen. Line this up. And you're going to put a piece of tape. Make sure they're lined on the axis. And you're going to put a piece of tape on the bottom. Now, shh, on both sides. And once you do the X, you do both of the greens. The next one we're going to do is the 45, 45, 90. So everybody take that. And I'm going to give you some tape in just a second. Take a pink one, and it's going to place right on top. And we're going to be able to fold them down. So after you put this on, you're going to tape it again. You have to make sure you line up the axis so it hits exactly right. Now, once you do this, if you lay this down, let's go ahead and fill in this one. What's the X and Y of the 45, 45, 90? Okay. Okay, the last one you're going to tape down is the 30, 60, 90. I know it's fun. What's the X coordinate, 1/2, and the Y? Square root of 3 over 2. Now listen. After you tape these down, if I want to do the bottom, if I flip this down, you're going to label the triangle. So this side right here is the square root of 3 over 2. So this is the square root of 3 over 2. This is 1/2. But what's true about the Y value? So this one is a negative square root of 3 over 2. Now, when I fill this in, the X is 1/2, and the Y is a negative square root of 3 over 2. Only the X and the Y. So I'm going to hand out the tape, and you're going to line these up and put tape one at a time on top of each other, and then label the back and fill in the rest of the unit circle. And you can have a Q1 also.